with the recordings. And we are live. Welcome to the Listen to This Bull live show, the show where the audience drives the conversation and we talk about bullshit in the insurance world. My name is Matt Mulholland. That is Remington Huggins. He's a very huggable guy. He doesn't hug people very often, but if he hugs you immediately, then you know that you smell awesome. I think that's what it comes down to, probably.
You got things going for you.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to talk about some bullshit today having to do with insurance related stuff, but bullshit in the AI world. If you've never seen this show, you can watch this live and you can put questions and commentary in wherever it is that you're watching this at. And if there's a good question there, we will put it on here and we will answer it live. We'll answer any question you have. So feel free to throw some commentary in there. Remington, you were on vacation. Where'd you go?
Where did I go? I went to Florida, actually, with the family. So I was down there. Went to Mexico like a month or two ago as well.
That's way better. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I didn't know you were just going to Florida, man. That doesn't sound like much of a vacation. I live there. It's like not vacation.
I'm in Florida all the time, man. But no, it was actually vacation. It was a family vacation, yearly trip. We've been doing it for like 20 years. So brother, sister, mom, dad, all that good stuff.
Yeah. You ever go down to Florida like during a hurricane or something as a vacation?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to watch my buddy's beard just, go to the side, all that.
Yeah. Maybe I should shave just for hurricanes.
No,
I
think you should grow it out for hurricane season.
That's actually a better idea, just to let it get real long so it ends up in my face and I can't see shit. Yeah.
I vote yes to that.
Right,
I miss you, Matt. I miss you, though, bud.
Thank you. I miss you too, Remington. I feel like we barely get to do much of these anymore. Always on the road. One of the two of us is always on the road, and we don't get to do these together very often. My beer just went all over my hands.
Yeah, I was making fun of you. You weren't watching, but yeah, for sure. You're on the road. You're teaching classes. I'm in Florida working. Hey, man, it happens. Life happens, but I'm glad we're here today.
Like dinosaurs.
And I want to throw out another disclaimer. I don't know much about AI. I mean, I'm not a technical savvy type guy, so it's gonna be a learning session for me. I'm gonna ask some questions for sure, though.
Well, we got the Zeitview guys sitting in the wings, ready to come on. This is a group of guys that are using drones to identify potential hail damages and things. Zeitview, if you haven't checked it out. I'm going to pull on Phil and Jonathan. So tell me a little bit about Zeitview before we talk about AI bullshit.
So Zeitview used to be, we still are Drone Base, and we switched our name over to Zeitview this past spring because, one, we had $55 million invested in us, and the investor said, well, y'all do more than just drones. We have fixed wing planes. We have drones. We have handheld. So it doesn't really matter how we get the data. It's what we do with the data. And so they felt Zeit means time in German, and Zeitview. We're looking at historical views. What do we do with the data that's in the dashboard, and how can we use it?
That would be an excellent name for a telescope then.
Yeah.
Back in time, as light comes from distant galaxies, Zeitview. That would actually make sense.
But now we started out like Uber for drones. We've grown it to, we've got over 80,000 pilots.
Yeah.
Do what?
With Drone Deploy, the Uber for drones thing?
Drone Deploy they have a platform for like flight automation. Drone Base was, Drone Base was originally started like Uber for drones. Got a network of pilots flying. If a real estate agent needed something flown, like a marketing video, we were there. Now that's advanced. We're in renewables, utilities, property management. We're big on commercial underwriting and roofs. So I head up the roofing division for steep slope, and we have been building out a platform that would work for all contractors. And Jonathan here, he's our head of AI. He's got 3 letters behind his name. I don't, so that's why I brought him on here.
Yeah, Jonathan, you're the nerd, basically, is what we're trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm the one who went to school for a long time just to make the same amount of money as Phil.
I went to school for a long time, but it's just because I didn't study that hard and I had to.
You got 4 years during school, is what I hear.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. You can surpass him later now. Nerds will rule the planet. That's what I was told. That's why I liked being a nerd myself. But
oh yeah, they always get the hot chicks, drive the nice cars, and,
right.
and they're the ones everybody's going, how the hell does he pull that?
Right. I mean, they're not really looking like Remington.
Matthew, it's not consistent. It's not consistent.
Right.
It's not consistent with hail damage. But it can happen. I can tell you that. Jonathan, just so everybody else knows, you said Phil said you had some letters behind your name. So tell us, like, what letters are we talking about here for everybody else?
Yeah, so in 2019, I got my PhD in electrical engineering. This was before AI was really a true subject. So usually you had to go into either computer science, engineering, or something, and then specialize in AI. So my PhD was in robotics and AI and cloud computing, and how you could use those together to actually solve real problems. So that's what he means by the letters behind my name. But I typically don't like to bring it up because most PhDs are highly theoretical, and I like to think of myself more solving real problems, which is what people ultimately care about.
So does anybody call you like doctor or something?
I think I've been called doctor twice in my entire life.
Would it freak you out? Right. When people say doctor, they think of medical doctor only anyway. Yeah. But I mean, if you're going to go that far as to get a PhD, I definitely have known people that force you to say doctor. It's Dr. Mulholland. Thank you very much.
Those are the same.
Tried that. That's how he introduces himself, but nobody can take him seriously.
Those are the same people who solve these theoretical problems that don't actually exist in the real world and can't actually solve something useful.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk about some bullshit that exists in AI, because it's not everything it's cracked up to be. It's not well, it is world changing, but it isn't.
It's not magic, right? It's not. And Jonathan, he can definitely dig in deep on this, but I think that's the biggest problem is AI has been oversold as it's the greatest thing, and it's going to take over the world. Hell, we started thinking that crap back when Terminator came out, What is this? I can't remember, Skynet, and that's what everybody thinks about. Like, hey, we've got this artificial intelligence. These machines are going to be smarter than us. That's not the case. That's never the case.
You think that'll still happen though, right?
Give it time. Yes, it's going to start to learn on its own, but that's not where we are.
Just be nice to ChatGPT. That's all I'm saying. You just got to be a little bit, patient with it.
Hey, you bring up a good point on what we're going to be talking about, ChatGPT, right? Yeah. That's like the gold standard everybody talks about now. But if you've used it more than once or twice, you've seen that it's not perfect. Even the greatest AI out there is not perfect. You still have to go in and scan the document, make sure it doesn't look robotic, and then have some kind of interaction with it, some kind of human interaction to make it real, because if not, I sent you something the other day, and what'd you say? It's shit. This is ChatGPT. I'm like, yeah, but it looks good and it saves me time.
It was so obvious, though. I was like, man, really? You write like that? You write like a robot?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and the same thing is true with any AI model. Just for anybody who's listening, if anybody is selling you an AI model and they're claiming that it's going to be perfect or nearly perfect, that should immediately be red flags. In my experience, you're never going to have an AI model unless the problem is super, super easy. For anything that's relatively hard, you're not going to get a model that's even close to full automation. The human's always going to need to be involved. And the focus around AI needs to be as a tool that helps the human and not replaces the human or full automation. It's all about using it as a singular tool in an entire system or process.
So if I'm a company and I'm selling some kind of an AI product, it would be really good for me to go onto podcasts and tell everybody that AI actually sucks. And that way they bring their perception of how good my product needs to be down. Right.
That's the plan. That's why we did it.
Yep.
No, you do have a point though. So in any kind of interaction with a customer or a user, you want to be able to set expectations and have them understand the process without just going in blindly, pushing a button and expecting it to deliver these results, which have been proven over the last few years. Hail detection. Why call it? That's the first problem. It's called hail detection. We're not detecting hail, right? We're picking up images or anomalies that resemble hail, but the model is trained. You know what a blister looks like, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what a hail hit looks like, right? So say, I think we use this example, the Atlas chalets, right? You got that big piece where on the applique where it comes off. It looks, if a machine is looking at it objectively, it's saying, all right, it's dark, it's not the same color, it must be hail. Don't call it hail because it's not. Unless we have a camera on the roof, we can't prove that that's what it is.
I mean, the issue is that you're taking that image out of context. There's nothing else to support the fact that hail even occurred on that roof. You're just taking an image of what could be or might not be hail without any evidence to say it even could possibly be because it even happened. But yeah, no, that is part of the issue. I remember the first time I was on an Atlas chalet roof and it had a big old spot on it. In fact, all the appliques had those big old areas, very circular, granulose, nice sloped edges, very soft. I mean, it screamed hail. It screamed it. But it was only in certain areas of the roof, which was under a tree, and it wasn't consistent over the entire face, and there was no collateral damages. It was almost like finding lichen damage, which also resembles hail very much, but it's only in the shaded areas of a roof or something along those lines. So without having those additional clues to build in to identify whether something is likely hail or not, really it's going to be overly subjective. Is there an AI that brings in those additional variables?
I would say not directly. There's not an AI that you could directly bring in all those variables, but there are AI, you could put some additional logic around it. Like if you knew there has to be a hailstorm within the last X months, you could put that logic and you could say, if there hasn't been one in the last X months, don't even try running hail. You can do things like that, but the type of logic that you're talking about,
I don't even like that plan simply because, the storm data is wildly inaccurate anyway.
It is. To your point, though, that's something that we took into account when we were training ours, because that was my biggest gripe was, it's saying it's hail, but there isn't a storm date. So, and we have our folks, our labelers and whatnot, training our model on like shingle swaths that are this big, little thumbnail images with no reference. And I said, Jonathan, this is not. We've got to be able to. What was it? The analogy I gave you at the murder trial, right? Yeah, the roof. It might look like it has hail, but let's treat that like the dead body. We got to find the getaway driver. We got to find the gun. We got to, there's so much more to making this case.
And the motivation.
Why
did hail damage the roof to begin with?
Yeah.
Remington, would it hold up in court if you were to discuss in a trial how AI is actually implementing imaging processing to determine whether or not something has been damaged by hail, but they're not taking into account some of the other evidence to even support that hail event occurred.
Yeah, the way for the AI information, in my opinion, to get into court would have to have an expert such as Phil or Jonathan to be there to testify, to back it up, to talk about it, where it comes from, how it was processed, and things of that nature. Not just me slapping it, on an opening statement and say, oh, look, this particular product found this. I'd want one of these guys on the stand to testify about the product, what it found, the credibility behind it, the statistics of how accurate it is, and so forth. Just like, put it this way, we're talking about dead bodies, on a first party property insurance podcast, but it's a great analogy. An attorney just can't say, hey, the DNA matches, right? They have to have a DNA analysis that's going to get up on the stand, talk about the percentages of this DNA coming from this individual and things of that nature. So you got to have that expert that's going to help out. Also, I want to piggyback off of what Phil said. I cannot emphasize this enough. He hit it right on the head that, okay, we have a roof that has been hit with hail, or what we believe is definitely hit with hail. Okay, when did it happen? And what was, the murder weapon? How big was the hail? All these other variables that we have to prove to win a case against a big insurance company. So, Phil, I tip my cap to you because I always praise that. Like, we have to have a good date of loss. I will not take cases unless it doesn't have what I believe is a good date of loss. Whether it's weather data, which I know sometimes is not accurate, or number two, eyewitnesses of the actual property owners that were there during the storm.
Yeah.
So let me
go ahead.
Let me give you some questions here just to identify how long it would take to implement some new features. If you were to have your AI suddenly start identifying soft metal damages, even on roof vents, because you're already looking at the roof, how long would it take you to train an AI to be able to identify that?
Yeah, the biggest question is the data. Do we have the data, and is it labeled? That's always the bottleneck. You have to get somebody who's capable of labeling hundreds of thousands of images, ideally, minimally tens of thousands of images. And they have to label it by drawing boxes around all the hail damage on the soft metals and be able to do it with enough accuracy where it's 95% correct, that then you can train the model. If you have the data, the training of the model is easy. All the big AI models you see, ChatGPT, Bard, any of the big models, they're all using well-known, open-sourced academic models that you can go and read a paper on and you can do it yourself. It always comes down to the data set and having the money to be able to pay people to label it and to collect it
correctly, right?
Correctly.
So garbage in, garbage out.
Bias in that. Yeah.
Yeah, we could feed it 100,000 images of Atlas chalets that look like it has hail, and that's what they're going to be marketing. But so one thing that we did different, what did we have? 71 terabytes worth of data of confirmed hail damaged roofs.
Where do you even get that? Where does that even exist?
Years of inspections with drones.
So drone inspections, how do you know that it was actually hail then?
I used to be a part owner of another company called XAP 360, which was precursor to what we're doing now. It was the AI before we redeveloped the product. And so our customers over years had flown, so we can take that aggregated data that we were able to capture over years of flights and use the imagery to help train. And I said it before, garbage in, garbage out. We are training off of confirmed hits with storm dates. We wanted to make sure that everything that we were running through there, we had all the data to back it up. And it's still not perfect. And that's another thing another point that I want Jonathan to really dig deep in. I hate that it's called hail detection because people that sets an anchor, right? It's going to detect hail for me. No, that's not the case. That's not what it's used for. Everybody thinks that AI is that magic piece. AI on this application is to speed up your workflow, and it's to keep you off the roof. I wrote an article the other day about it was good. But no, it was on why do we focus on the roof? Why do we spend the most time out of an inspection in the most dangerous place? And if I only have that information, we're not getting this thing approved. If it's just on the roof and I spent an hour up there crawling around, I just wasted a boatload of time if I don't have any collateral damage.
Well, it was exercise. So, I mean, your calves are friggin' huge. It's fine.
I'll take that look. But that about killed me one time. I about slid off. It was a 18-foot drop on what was it? It was a Classic Horizon, granules sloughing off, and I just about died that day. So that was one other reason why I was like, drones sound pretty freaking nice.
Did you actually hit the ground? Did you hit?
No, I was able to get my foot in the gutter to stop me, and I grabbed a tab, the last tab on the
end a story without telling people how you survived.
Well, I didn't die. I didn't fall off. I would have died. It was straight down to the driveway. Neither here nor there.
Man, they're no joke. I had a ladder collapse on me a month and a half ago. I can't straighten out my right arm. This is as straight as it gets.
You know any attorneys?
Right? I didn't want to be a dick.
Help him out with that?
Yeah. Anyway, we actually have a really good question from the audience here. And Nolan, bear with me. I will get to your question once we get off the roof topic again. This is from Chase Van Skyhawk, which it's got to be a competitor, right? With a name like that? Either that or he's a Jedi.
He might be a Jedi.
Yeah. Would the AI learn faster identifying everything that is not hail, given blisters, lichen, or thermal cracking are more agreeable and identifiable than traditional hail damages?
Yeah. So would it learn faster? Maybe not faster, but would it learn to be more accurate? Yes. If you can give it examples of things that are not hail that could potentially trick the model, that is something that it could learn to separate hail from things that look like hail, which would make the model more accurate. The problem always goes back to you have to get that data labeled. So you have to be able to get people who can then identify hail versus blisters versus thermal cracking, whatever other things that look like hail that aren't hail, and be able to label it consistently and accurately over tens or hundreds of thousands of images. That's always.
And we're still back at the same problem, though, because the image is yay big. We don't have the context that goes with the image. Can AI even do that? Can it have multiple contextual issues that it has to absolve? If there is random consistency, then it's more likely to be hail than if it's on one area of the roof where it's probably lichen. Can AI make that determination? Or is it just going to say that there's hail only in this area?
So it's not going to say either on ours. It's going to say that we found these anomalies that are potentially hail, but it needs that human interaction, like we talked in the beginning, to either verify or deny, what you're able to see.
It's almost like you're asking an AI to do something impossible.
My question to you is: given a human, just given the images, can they determine?
No.
Then the answer is no. But it would be possible to feed in, say you had, I don't know, multiple images or you had different data sources. You could feed that into the model as well. That would give you the context. But that's something that is very R&D like, where I wouldn't say it's something that I can 100% say, yes, it would make the model better. You'll learn if you dig into ML or AI more. A lot of what we do is very guess and check. There's no science to it. So yes, there are models where we could add weather data or we could add other external information. Whether that works or not is a big shot in the dark. There's no science to AI other than let's try giving it the data we think it needs to learn and see if it can learn.
Yeah. And Jonathan, I think you made a really good point that I think everybody needs to understand. If you can't see it, the system's not going to see it, right? It's not going to just magically pull hail out of a roof that doesn't have hail on it.
And the number one question I ask when somebody comes to me, hey, can we do a model to do this? Can a human do it with the same information that the model has? If the answer is yes, then the answer is potentially. And if they say it's really hard, but maybe they can do it, then it's going to be really hard for the AI. If they're like, oh, the human can do it, no problem, that's easy, then the AI can probably do it with a fair amount of accuracy as well. That's a very good first initial test for if you're not an AI person and you want to know, is it possible? Ask yourself, could I do it with that information given?
Yeah. I used the analogy the other day. It's kind of like a Roomba, right? You got hear me out. Okay. You have a certain amount of tasks that you have to get done before you leave the house. Sweeping is one of them. Well, if I can train a machine to do that job for me, well, I can get my 3 other tasks done in much quicker, and I can get out of the house. I can, go play golf, whatever. But because there is that machine that has been trained to do a job, it speeds up my overall process.
And to add on top of that, that machine, we know the Roomba doesn't clean your floor perfectly. So it's
again, let's just bring the bar back down so you guys don't think you're going to get a perfect result.
We need to bring the expectations back down.
What you should be asking is, how does the AI make my workflow faster or better? That's the question you should be asking. If it takes me to do an hour without it, with it, how much faster can I do it? Don't ask about accuracy, precision, all any of that stuff. You should be asking, does it take me down from an hour to 30 minutes or an hour?
Is a computer program good enough as a third-party opinion?
I would say no.
Yeah, I was trying to process that on giving an example on it. But I think like Jonathan's saying is, I mean, you have credibility by saying, hey, look, this thing's not like 100% accurate, right? I mean, if you go to even an attorney and the attorney's like, I promise 100% we're going to win this case, versus, hey, look, there's always that potential that something can happen during the process. Like, I know who I'm going to trust. You know what I'm saying? Just like AI and what Phil and Jonathan are saying. But I would agree with Jonathan on the question that you're asking, Matt, about, the third party computer system being the third party opinion and it being upheld, unless you have somebody to, like I said earlier, sit up there and talk about its opinion and where it's coming from and so forth. Just like weather data. I mean, it's its opinion that on this date at this address that, 1.5 inch hail hit the property. You know what I'm saying? So
right. Well, let me ask you this.
Wait, time out. I think Jonathan, what are you drinking right there? Is that some
bourbon?
Bourbon. Okay. Is that the first bourbon we got, Matt? Usually we're just drinking beer.
We've had John Senek drinking some kind of bourbon or whiskey of some kind. Even Neck Tattoo was drinking whiskey most of the time. Okay. I've got a bourbon beer going on, which honestly is terrible. I'm going to keep drinking it.
But you're holding it together pretty well.
Yeah, it's really not good. It's supposed to be like a porter or a stout. It's a stout. It's an imperial stout.
I can't drink those things.
Yeah,
like eating a loaf of bread.
It is definitely, this one's thicker than others too, but I really enjoy some of them. So it depends. I wouldn't drink this in the heat of summer, sitting outside. This would kill me.
Oh my God.
But as something to just relax with, I'm a Guinness guy, and Guinness is a lot lighter of a stout than this is. But
I'm a Guinness and Bailey's kind of guy, and Jameson, you just drop it in there and get it over with.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't know about doing like Irish car bombs, if that's what you were just insinuating, because that's horrendous.
That's what he was.
Oh yeah. You say that's horrendous? Oh, yeah. It tastes wonderful.
Irish car. What is wrong with you?
Well, I mean, it's not like I sit there and sip on it. You got to chug it, right?
Do you like things curdling in your mouth? Is that no,
I don't give it time. It's just right down.
So it's the excuse you need to chug it. That's what
Yeah, I would never sip on it. That's disgusting.
Yeah. All right. So I got a question. I think this is a good one. And then I'm still going to get to Nolan's question, which I'm saving because it's an excellent question. But we know that ChatGPT lies through its teeth. It lies. It will make up shit in order to support its own previous opinions. And Bing and all these other AI, text AI type things will do a lot of that kind of shit. Does your AI ever lie?
100%.
It does.
100%.
All of them do.
Yeah.
Wow. Why
John,
would it
what's
do
one of
that?
my biggest pet peeves? What's the one thing that I cannot stand that we've had to train it to not pick up?
3-tab shingles.
The seal strip in between 3-tab shingles. That is, it shows up on everybody's. And like Jonathan said, when we train these things, we can also train it not to do something.
So if the seal strip like goes in between the gap of the
You
tabs,
see that little black square.
no kidding.
It picks, like, you could have a roof that has 5,000 insights.
Yeah.
And 0 of them are hail because it picked up the
Little
seal strip.
keyholes. Interesting. So that's not
Because
really
it's all
lying, though.
black.
That's just being inaccurate.
Yeah, we've had a big company, big client who flew a new roof on purpose just to call us out on that.
Wow. What did you do?
We're going
Educated.
to take that data, we're going to add it to our data set, and we're going to train the model that 3-tab shingles, or whatever you want to call that, is not hail.
Huh.
There you
And
go.
that's
I
the
love
biggest thing.
transparency.
That's the biggest thing with AI is until you can get it into production and you have your customers using it, you can't know what they're going to complain about or what it's going to fail on. You're just guessing. You have to just get it in front of people, and you have to have that open communication where when people complain, you don't take it personal. You have to take it as honest feedback, and you have to get that fixed.
Yeah.
No.
Just like anything else, I guess. The guys that sell a product that defend their product through and through are not going to be as credible as the ones that go, yeah, you're right. This is messed up. We got to fix it.
Yep.
Yeah.
See what we can do. So have you found that your program, though, will go out of its way? It's not like you're having a back and forth communication with this thing ever. Or is it like that on your side as a programmer? Do you have conversations with the AI, Jonathan?
Yeah, we don't have conversations, but we do save. Anytime the person goes in there and is deleting stuff or adding additional hail damage that was missed, we do save that for our own use so we can make our models better. But no, we don't have any conversations or anything like that. Okay. I don't tell it in the morning to be good today.
Good morning, Jonathan.
At least it doesn't talk back to you,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It'll start writing things in the hail damage on the shingles. Jonathan is a dick. It'll just say that. If your program ever starts drawing penises out of hail, then you know that it's full of shit.
That's an odd image. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
really funny, though.
I would shut it down.
Dude, you got to do that on April Fools to all your users just to mess with them a little bit. They're all roofers.
Yeah.
They would love that shit. All right, let me pull up Nolan's question because it works pretty well now. So Nolan asks, sorry if this has already been discussed. Just hopping on now. This was a long time ago. With the huge or high turnover rate and staffing issues that carriers are experiencing, do you think there will be a push to replace the desk adjuster role with AI? He says he's heard rumors. How good do you think it is?
Well, what role, like what function of that role do you want to replace with AI?
The role of desk adjuster for now, a desk adjuster in the current climate is someone that is identifying causation, identifying coverages, and making the claims decisions. They're the ones with the authority for the file. So if we're using that question based on today's role for a desk adjuster, let's assume could that be taken over by AI?
It depends.
It doesn't sound like it would right now.
Yeah, no, it depends on the data, which is subjective. And the weather data is not always the best. But if we did talk about it briefly before, say it's able to pull the storm date, it it's able to get these images. It's also taking into account if you've got collateral images, and we have it trained on that. If you can train it for their job and just those specific roles, then theoretically, yes, you could, but it would take a lot.
And even then, I think we're a long way away from that. I still think even if we could do all that, I still think there's going to be a human at the end of the line who has to review the information from the AI and make the final decision. I don't see that going away anytime soon. The only thing I could see is the number that are needed could go down. Instead of me being able to do, I don't know what a normal person could do, say 50 in a day, maybe they could do 100 in a day. And then eventually 200 in a day, and then that's how I think AI would be used. But I don't think it's anywhere near where we completely eliminate that job. I think we're talking a very long time.
Yeah, I definitely do not see the carriers leaving up to AI whether or not they're going to pay out on a $1.5 million commercial claim. I don't see that. I mean, I don't see it on a $10,000 residential roof. There's always going to have to be that human interaction, because I guarantee
might be too much.
Do what?
Go ahead, Remington.
Hear me out on this, Matt. I could see where maybe AI could help with the estimates. So like if there's like, for instance, like a particular carrier that has a particular policy form, and that is like implemented, and you got a IA to go out and draft an estimate, and that estimate is like thrown through the system, and it, like, for instance, there's not O&L coverage that's taken out of the estimate, like things like that. I don't know. I could see like where that could come into play. Where things are just like extremely black and white versus somebody coming up with a coverage decision. To me, I feel like you got to be a human to do that, you know?
And licensed.
Yeah, right. Wow. Yeah, we didn't forget about that. Licensed as well, right. You know? But
I mean, there are rumors of these major AI things like Colossus, if you guys have heard of that, where they take statistical analysis of human behavior into account and know that they can deny a certain amount of claims. And at this point in the process, this many days long, the average person is likely to give up if you do certain things, or you can string them along past their suit limitation period just by giving them the tiniest bit of hope. If you say this, and then once that passes, then you deny them. There's stuff like that has been theorized or even possibly leaked to be going on. But it's an ugly thing. This is how I'm seeing it right now, based on our conversation. Training AI is like training a dog to sit. And from an outside perspective, we are marketing to everyone that's watching that we have taught the dog how to speak English. In reality, we taught the dog a word, sit, and it's doing it, and it's getting a treat. So we're doing a very small little narrow thing that we're teaching it how to do. And we're trying to teach it to do that very, very well, but it's not intelligent. It's going based on whatever. It's probably statistical analysis, really. With this many granules, it'll look like this when it's going, and that's hail. But if there's 0.05% less granules on there than before, then maybe it isn't hail, and all kinds of bullshit, or this many colors that are on the screen.
That's exactly what AI or machine learning specifically is. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, before there was like true machine learning, humans would actually design exactly what you're saying. We're going to say a hail is something that's circular. It's roughly this size, this shape. And you had to basically create all those features by hand as a human. All ML is today is, can we learn those features automatically? And so if you were to break down the actual inner math of the ML model, it's doing exactly what you said. It's just statistics on what the average hail, average shape, average whatever you can think of features. And it could be very complex features, but it's ultimately just broken down into features that are statistics.
One of the things that I learned having the hail cannon that we have is that hail is not always going to look the way you expect.
Yeah, we're getting a new one though, right? We're getting a new hail cannon.
There's
anybody watching, you need to donate, because I can't wait to see this bad boy in action.
Well, since you brought it up, I'm going to say something about that real quick. We do have a GoFundMe open, and it's not for the hail cannon. We've got the hail cannon, we've got the gantry system. What we don't have
Is the camera.
is a high-speed camera. And there is one, and all the stuff that would be necessary to do it is like $12,000. Expensive camera. It's not something I can just go out and buy to do things that I'm never going to get paid for. So this is for listen to this poll. If you go to that GoFundMe page that's on the screen, it's gofundme.com/high-speed-camera-L2TB for listen to this bull. And you can find that on our YouTube channel. There's going to be a link right there as well if you just want to get a link for it. But if you guys would help us out in purchasing that high-speed camera, anybody that donates to that will have access to our cloud files, and they'll get all the photos and videos and drafts that we put together in real time. Right then and there, you'll have access to all of it. So anybody that donates, and there's no limit, you could donate $1 and still have access to that. But GoFundMe.com for what we want to do with it, though, is to watch hail hit different materials in a very high speed or very slow motion, really. So frame by frame, can we see the energy propagate through material? Is there additional damage caused by the uplift as an energy wave goes through the material? And do we have concentric rings as a result? Is damage caused to an older asphalt shingle going to look different from a newer one? We know conceptually that it would, because the asphalt shrinks when it loses its oils and evaporates all that. So it's going to get tighter. It's going to eject granules a little bit easier. It's not embedding the granules as much. And so when hail hits it, and the asphalt isn't supple enough to allow the granules to be pushed down inside of it more, is it just going to be ejected? You know, one of the things your model is probably having a hard time with is the fact that there is damage that looks different when the shingles are older than when they're newer. I bet that's a big issue for that thing. It's a big issue for anyone in the industry, even humans.
Yeah, and that's something that we have to take into account. You can't just take brand new shingles off the shelf and say this is exactly what hail looks like. You have to have so many different variables. That's when Jonathan said hundreds of thousands of images that are trained. We can't train it on something that's perfect. It had even the imagery. We degrade the imagery to a certain level, so it's not as clear to assist.
You degrade it on purpose?
Yep. Because we know in our capture, when we're capturing images with drones, we're not going to get perfectly clear, perfectly exposed images every single time. So during training, we add a little bit of blur. We change the lighting a little bit. We rotate the image. There's a lot of little tricks. We add some noise to the image that makes, let's say we have a data set of 50,000. Well, by doing these artificial things, we can turn it from 50,000 to 200,000 with these.
You guys are the reason we're going to have the AI revolution that kills us all. You're just pissing this thing off by giving it shitty images. I mean, Jesus, no one wants to deal with that.
Try harder. That's what we say.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I like the question.
It was a good question. So
I like the question that you had up there from Taylor.
let me read it out loud for the podcast listeners. If Taylor Ammons posted this, if a user is telling the software that certain things are hail that actually aren't, how do you combat that? Because it sounds like you're saving that kind of information that the user is putting in and adding that into the machine.
I'll take that one. Because that was one thing that I brought up also in the beginning. If we allow outside influence into this, could it get better? Yes. Could it get worse? Because I guarantee you, if we allow contractors to say, yes, this is hail, yes, this is hail, yes, this is hail, and then you got maybe a carrier that doesn't feel like that is hail, they go in and on the same data are saying, no, this isn't, no, this isn't, no, this isn't. We're not able to control our deliverable, but we do store the data. So if it is good quality, we review it, say, yes, this is something we need to put into the system. Then that, yes, that does help, but we have to have a way to combat misinformation from going into our system.
Yeah, we have a group of people who label our data for us, and they always review the stuff before it goes back into our model. So we can provide them the image with the labels, and they can go and they know what we consider hail versus not hail, and they go and delete it, or I should say hail-like things, and they go and remove all the false detections that we shouldn't consider as hail before it goes into our data set.
Like the dildos.
Yep.
Like the dildos, yes. Yeah.
Well, they'll leave those, but they won't mark it as hail.
We'll just have another anomaly tag that we'll put on there.
Yeah. You have 15 potential hail indentations and 7 dildos. If that shows up on your report, that would be fantastic.
We'll work on it.
If you guys can start identifying bullet holes, that'd be cool. That's one of my favorite things as an inspector. I have a jar. Actually, I haven't seen the jar in a long time now that I said that out loud. But I had a jar. I have no idea where it is. I have a jar somewhere filled with bullets that I found on roofs over the years, and it is a fairly sizable jar. We got it about a third of the way full. I mean, it's a significant amount of bullets. The Atlanta market. So
I found some down in DFW a few years back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you start looking around.
It's pretty interesting damage that comes from those bullets.
That would probably trick the model. Gunshot into the roof, probably would think it's hail.
It should. It's a hole in the roof. Does it call holes? You know, we could ask too many questions, and we don't need to talk about holes in the thing alongside of the dildos that we were discussing earlier. This is a very nerdy question that just came from the audience. Tom Hamrick, also one of my favorite nerds out there, by the way, really good attorney. He says, what is the test retest error rate? Do you conduct such tests? And what is the false positive error rate? Do you understand what he's asking?
I do.
Okay, good.
So
we don't.
Yeah, so
I didn't. I'm glad Jonathan's here.
Yeah, so what he's asking is, how often do we retest our model's performance as we're getting new data? So every time we get a new bulk data set, so basically we'll collect user feedback, we'll give that to our internal labeling team, they'll fix it, and we'll trigger a new training job. That new training job, that's when we split the data into train and test sets, so it only trains on the training data, so it can't cheat. Then the test data is what we use to evaluate it. So that's what he's asking, that how often do we do that? And it's every time we get a substantial amount, usually every 6 months to a year, we really want to make an impact. If we just wait for a small amount of data, it doesn't really help. We have to get a substantial amount of data to make an impact. And then he asked, what is the false positive error rate? I believe the last time we did it, we're testing on about 100,000 images. We're roughly around, I think it was around 20% false positive rate, 25%. And again, this is a very difficult thing to measure just because the inconsistencies in our labeling is even our own internal labelers have inconsistent labeling. If you were to ask 5 of people to label our damage, they're going to all produce different results. So yes, it's 25%, 25%, but it could be more, it could be less. It's really hard to know how accurate the labels themselves are. But what we do know is if we show you a roof with no AI, show it with AI, you will do it much faster with AI. And that's the ultimate goal, is saving you time in the end. But yes, false positive rate, if you really want to know, it's 20 to 25%. So that means every 100 hail strikes on the roof that we detect, probably 20 or 25 of them are not truly hail strikes.
Machines are going to take over everywhere, even the bedroom.
And
they'll make it faster there too.
And our number one rule is, and I always push this from day one, is transparency. I don't believe in hiding performance. A lot of companies will not say our model is X% accurate.
You don't say that at all?
But we
know what your error rate is.
We do. Our accuracy is around that 75 to 80%, so 20 to 25%.
You just did what you said that you shouldn't do.
No, I said most people don't.
Oh.
Okay. I believe they're only going to come back and complain anyways, and they're going to develop their own accuracy in their head anyways. So why not just tell them from the beginning?
Okay. So
if you're hitting 80%, 75 to 80%, that's high. That's up there.
Better than most roofers.
And it does give you guys a ton of credibility to say, hey, look, there is a margin of error. Like, it is just part of it, you know. Honestly, like you guys have said before, I think that's with any AI out there. I don't care if it's a Tesla. You know, I mean, it just comes with it. So that you guys are doing a great job hitting those high marks.
Yeah, talking about that Tesla thing, that's one thing I always pitch to executives and some of our investors is, did Tesla release their autopilot when it was 99.99% accurate? No. They did the risk reward analysis of what happens if Tesla were to get into an accident and kill somebody, and what's the reward versus risk. And that's the same thing with AI. You have to be able to quantify your risk versus your reward and make a decision based on that.
Yep. It's what airplane companies do every day, right?
Yep.
And submarine manufacturers.
Ooh, that's too early, Matt.
Too soon.
Too early, bud. Like less than a week out, man.
My bad. I mean, whatever. We all laugh. Shut up.
No, but again, I do tip my cap to you guys being transparent about it. And again, hitting those high marks of 75, 80%. That's awesome. Good for you guys.
And another caveat, just for the nerd in me, is that's 75% on our testing data set. That doesn't mean 75% in the real world. There's always a degradation in performance from test data set to real world. So we're saying we're getting 75% on our test data set, but in reality, it's going to be lower in the real world. That's always something. Another thing you should ask if you're ever dealing with AI is, what's your test set accuracy and how well do you expect it to actually perform in the real world?
Yeah, makes sense.
Does your program or your platform have user input in the form of collateral damages? There was collateral damage observed. There were spatter marks observed. That way, when they go back and they say that they agree that it was hail, that it actually holds more weight.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the way we have our report set up, when you export it, you're going to see your collateral first. Then you're going to see each individual slope that you have designated that there is hail. So it's, what do I need to see to prove it out anyway? I got to have the collateral. So that we hit that first, and then, then they can take a look at the roof. So.
How long of a meeting did you have when you were trying to decide what shape to put around the hail hits? Was it like a huge fight? Like, it's going to be squares? No, it's got to be circles. I mean, how much of a battle was there? Not
necessarily on the shapes, but the colors. That really? Was. I mean, that's one of those things where, because of different color shingles. Yeah. Like if I had white, it may show up better on the darker shingles. If I had red, I don't know. Who knows? But that's where we went with white.
Right. Well, there's not many white shingles out there, and the ones that are white don't stay white for very long. That's not terrible. Could have gone with like neon green.
Could have. We could always switch it.
Yeah.
Jonathan, make it neon green.
I feel like you have some nice purples in your logo.
I think that would make our UI UX designer cry if we chose neon green.
Oh yeah.
Just because they like everything to coordinate.
Oh, those schmucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't coordinate everything. I look good on the outside, but I have a different style of underwear on at all times. So, there's only so much coordination that needs to happen. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. All right.
Matt,
man,
let me ask you one question.
AI
question before we go. All right. Jonathan, what is the biggest crock of BS that you've seen in the AI world? I'm not saying name a company name. I'm just saying
you can if you want to, though.
This overall, just the overselling of it. Every company, not every company, but most companies oversell their AI. And investors are catching on. You can go Google this, look at AI startup investments from 2023 versus previous years. It dropped by I think 40 or 50% this year.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Investors are catching on that a large percentage of AI companies are either not doing AI and they're just doing very simple logic, or they're overselling it. Don't get me wrong. There are AI companies who do legit stuff, but so many people just use it as a buzzword. And that's the thing. And then number two is it's not taking over the world yet. We're a long way away from that. Doesn't mean it can be used for bad things. You can definitely use it for bad things, but we're nowhere near the whole AI is going to teach itself and take over the world. We're nowhere near that.
Got it.
Or at least
That
you're
makes
not
me feel
aware
better.
of those AIs.
Yeah, or I'm not aware, unless Google's doing something crazy and they're hiding it, and we just have no. Everybody's wrong, but from my perspective, we're not near that.
Good. Glad Terminator is not around the corner. You know,
We probably got at least 7 or 8 months.
Roughly.
Or am I the one really developing it, and I'm just lying? So
It's you. It's that that'd be the perfect thing to say. Perfect alibi.
Yeah.
I told everybody I didn't have anything. It can't be me. Well, cool. Well, I think that we all agree that AI makes our lives different.
Different.
Sure.
Different. We're fighting different things than we used to, and have a completely different process and things. I can tell you this: I definitely get a baseline for any document fairly quickly, and then I can tweak it from there. And I feel like that helps me get started on projects. So there is an aspect that will move you along. But if you ever see training from AI or blog posts from AI, it seems like it's pretty obvious at this point. So cut it out, Phil.
I'll pump those
There's
things
actually
out. Don't
AI
worry.
And just as a different thing, Phil, there's actually AI tools where you can take your GPT generated document, drop it in, and it's supposed to de-GPT it to make it look more human-like.
It's over now.
There's an AI to anti-AI it.
Yep, exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
I tell you
Now
what,
you're
though.
never gonna have that.
I like things that have AI. The fact that they're marketing it to me, it's got AI, whether it's bullshit or not. Like, I would buy a bidet right now if it said it had AI in it, and it could target the shit a little bit faster. I would. But I probably should know that that's not really AI. Could you imagine the life of an AI that targets shit all day long? They should take us over.
It bubbles when it needs.
Labelers. Whoever has to
Right.
label that imagery.
Oh my god. The marketing company will have fun with it, I think.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to kick you off. Thanks for being on the show and talking about the bullshit in AI. And we will, if you guys have any questions about this, how do they get a hold of you?
They can email me, phil.pratt@zeitview.com.
How do you spell Zeitview?
It is Zeitview.
Zeitview.
Yep.
Yeah.
And same thing,
Zeit.
Jonathan.Lewowski@zeitview.com. You can also email me any nerdy AI stuff, or if you just want any more, like, is this fact or fiction? Feel free to reach out to me.
Any of you marketing gurus out there that want to create an AI image of an AI bidet, please send it our way. That would be fantastic.
You know what? Scrap the whole hail gun and high-speed camera. We're doing the bidet.
We're doing
There you go.
AI bidet. There's a market for that. I'm telling you, we could get rich instantly. This has been a strange episode. All right, guys. We really appreciate you kicking you off. That was interesting. Do you feel smarter or dumber after this episode, Remington?
I feel smarter. I actually learned a lot. Yeah.
Mm.
You hear AI, it's just like the new thing, I guess. But after talking with those guys, I've definitely learned a lot. And I told you, I'm not like tech savvy and all that.
Yeah.
Hey, I feel better. I feel better about the world now.
Well, that's good. If they start having AI hunting tools, would you jump on it?
I mean, no, maybe.
I mean, a little bit, maybe. I feel like you would. I feel like you'd at least look at it.
No, I swear that was really informative. So I'm glad to have them, and I'm gonna go jump on their website and check it out tomorrow morning.
They're actually a decent company. They've got a lot more going on as far as their training goes. They've got a hell of a lot more images they put into the system. Their AI is a lot more along the path than the other ones that seem to be out there. It doesn't mean that they're their best, but that's something that I do know for sure. So, all right, cool. If you guys didn't hear, we do have a fundraiser going on GoFundMe, and I'll put a link up again in the commentary everywhere for everyone. But if you can help us purchase a high-speed camera, then you also get access to all of the video and photos that go along with it. And we'll be able to shoot hail hitting shingles and other materials at 1400 frames per second in 4K resolution with this thing. So we'll be able to get a lot of good data out of it and possibly kind of throw a kink in the system of the bullshit that we've been taught from engineering firms over the last 4 decades, really. I think that we could do some fun things with that. So help us out with that. I'll put the link in there, and we will see you next Tuesday at 6 p.m. See you later.
See ya.
We really need to learn how to sign off of a podcast properly.